Welcome, hunters, to Side Quest Episode 4. Today we are talking about Octopath Traveler, which used to be Project Octopath Traveler, but they decided to keep the name minus Project, I guess, right?
I mean, it makes sense. Project Octopath was like a working title that they didn't want to reveal it. I still keep referring to it as Project Octopath, and people get confused.
Yeah. Well, it confused me by taking off Project, because I still call it Project, and people are like, what are you saying? I'm like, I'm just, no, sorry.
My thing is, when people get confused when I say Project Octopath, it's like, it still has the word Octopath, which isn't shared with many other games,
Or any other games.
I could be wrong, yeah.
Yeah. This is Side Quest, if I didn't say this before. This is our monthly podcast where we take a game and we look at it sort of like a book club style. We ask you listeners to play along with us. And if you didn't, fine. But right in the front, heavy spoilers. There's going to be spoilers in this game. And there's not even, there's going to be spoilers that we won't even realize are going to be spoilers, especially for this one. It's a very story-driven, heavy game. So that said, let's go ahead and jump into what we normally start off with, which is our general impressions. Toaster, what do you think?
I love it so far. Actually, one thing I was going to say was, too, we should bring up how far we got to. But yeah, I love it so far. I think it's a beautiful game. The soundtrack is wonderful. The visuals are excellent. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't hate any of the main characters, which is a huge thing for me. Because there's a lot of games where it's like, oh, this is good. And the main character just is terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it has the advantage of any one of the 8 can be your main character in quotations. Because there is sort of like a main character mechanic, sort of. Basically, the first one you pick in the game becomes your main character until you beat their story. Then they can come out of your party. But they're locked in your party till you beat Chapter 4 for that character.
Right.
It's good that you like all 8. I do too. The internet doesn't. This thing is getting panned by JRPG fans for being...
Really? I haven't seen too much hate for it. I see a lot of people where they're like, they don't like a certain character, but overall, it seems like impressions were decent.
As far as story goes, a lot of people say the story's crap.
Huh.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people like the gameplay. They're like, the visuals are great, the sound is great, everything. But when it comes down to the story, I've seen a lot of criticism of it being very tropey, overused, blah blah blah, and that kind of stuff. And well, honestly, I don't agree with them. But part of that is I've never played the big 3 that everyone refers to, which is Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, and Secret of Mana. Never played them.
So I actually have a statement on that regarding the whole tropey thing.
Mm-hmm. I
think that's kind of a load of crap. Not the opinion, but the fact that things can't be tropey. There's a reason things are tropey is because... well, they work. If they're not tropey, that means they didn't work and nobody decided to do it ever again. So, I think it's okay for things to follow a little bit of formula. Obviously, don't be like the exact same game. You can't Mario it all the time. Mario can because they do little changes and stuff. But with RPGs, it's okay to follow ideas. If you really want to complain about something being tropey, no RPG has ever actually been that original because most 90% of all tropes are taken from
something else,
literature and shows and stuff like that. So tropey is such a cheap way to criticize things, in my opinion.
Well, here's the other thing. It's also getting panned for not being an interconnected story like those big 3. So because it's different from those big 3, it's getting panned. It's not a big epic world tale like Final Fantasy VI per se. Final Fantasy VI is going to be the one I'm most familiar with because I've seen a completionist review on it. The other one is it's it's not, I expected them to be all interconnected stories, and it's not, and so it's getting panned for that. So it can't win either way for a lot of people. And this is my This is my like viewpoint of looking into this game on Reddit and this kind of stuff. This is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
The general public, I don't know. I don't interact with a whole lot of people that are super up or down on this game. Everyone I know personally has really loved this game so far.
One thing I did want to point out is I think everybody's expecting some massive giant world with crazy interconnecting storylines, but this is a very down to earth RPG, I think.
That's why I like it. That's why I can relate. For once there's a story game, I like the story. And that's my general impression. I love this game.
Yeah, like I know people, it's weird, people complain about it being tropey. All the characters have like pretty moderate beginnings of like, there's no like, oh, it's the chosen one who must save the world from this evil. No, it's a merchant who wants to merchant harder, so she leaves town to merchant harder.
Yeah. to get more life experience. I think you could say the one that is the most like, oh, I'm such an important person kind of thing, I would say is Albrecht. And Albrecht's beginning tale, he was the protector of a prince of a kingdom that fell. And that's one of the things is I'm going to refer it a bit to a Dungeons and Dragons because that's where most of my RPG experience lies. Is like you get as a DM, you get a character. It's like I was the chosen protector of such and such prince and such kingdom. I'm like, you're asking for a lot of working with me on your backstory here. like that's about the worst one was Albrecht.
That is, I will say, that is a common storyline, but there's a reason it works.
That's true, yeah, and it ties into him very well. So, for sake of just for understanding, for the audience, what there is there's 8 playable characters in the game. I'm going to try to cycle through them all. So you have Tressa, who you mentioned is the merchant. You have Primrose the dancer, Albrecht the knight. You have Hanette, who's the hunter, Cyrus, who's the mage, and you have Therian, which is the thief, and then Alfine, which is the, what do you call him, apothecary.
Yep.
And I'm missing one.
Cyrus, you said Cyrus the mage, right?
Cyrus. Yes, I did.
I'm thinking of them in pairs.
Oh, no, Ophelia, the cleric.
Yeah. So I'm gonna identify these characters in another way for people who played a lot of RPGs.
Okay.
Ophelia is Yuna from Final Fantasy X.
I understand that one.
Tressa is, this one might be a little bit about there. Tressa's that girl from Recetiar, the person who wants to be a good merchant, so she goes out into the world.
No idea.
Yeah, you might like that one. Therion is kind of the rogue who thinks highly of himself. I'm gonna be honest, I did not get far in his storyline. Mm-hmm. Our amazing Lady Huntress is the one who's very noble, does her job well, but is trying to understand the outside world a little bit better.
Yeah. A little green outside of the woods.
Yeah. Oh crap! The warrior's name.
Albrecht.
He is Captain Vash of Damask. What's the fighter guy from Final Fantasy XII? The one who got betrayed. Kingdom went down, and so he's just trying to stay noble and rise back up after.
Oh wow! Yeah, that is totally
kicked into nothingness.
Yeah.
I don't have great comparisons for the others, but yeah, there's some that are very clearly, similar to other characters. I'm not going to say inspired or copies because they're not. They have their own reasons for doing what they're doing.
So before we dive into a lot of mechanics and that kind of stuff, how far we got is going to be based on how the game works, essentially. Is what it is you have 4 chapters for every character. And as I understand it, there is post-game content after those chapters. But essentially, what you're going to consider beating the game for a character, because after you beat the first fourth chapter, you get the credits. So
yeah, that's right.
What you're going to get, what I would consider beating the game, is completing chapter 4 with all 8 characters. There is post-game content, and there is a post-game boss. I don't know what that is. I haven't got there. But in terms for the audience here of how we understand how far we got in the game, I'm going to say that I have completed chapter 4 for Primrose, Cyrus, Hanet, and Albrecht. And the next closest is I completed chapter 2 for Tressa, and everyone else is chapter 1 for me. So my goal was to get my main party all the way through chapter 4 for each of them. I wanted to get all of them through chapter 4, but there wasn't enough time. So
I managed to get through chapter 1 for everybody,
mm-hmm.
and then a decent handful of the chapter 2s. Downside is my roommate also got into playing Octopath, and he got significantly farther than me, which is also why I wasn't able to get that far.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, like, I think even just doing the chapter 1s, you're gonna be able to talk decently about the mechanics and that kind of stuff of the game.
Oh yeah, I do have a request though. Don't ruin the whole storyline. Obviously, we talk about spoilers, but don't be like, oh, and the twist is, yeah.
Oh no. I am going to talk about the characters themselves, though. I'm not going to talk about the events.
That's good.
I want to talk about their personalities more so than the events of the story when we get to that section. But because it's pseudo spoilery still for people who haven't played the game.
Oh, right.
I'm going to assume that chapter 1 spoilers are just whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to hear chapter 1 spoilers.
Everybody.
I'm trying not to go anything past chapter 1.
Okay.
So, but there's things to talk about when we get to the characters. There's a lot. That's probably going to be the biggest part of our discussion.
I have some mechanics discussion as well, but that's.
No, but I want to do the character stuff last. That's why. And because I'm gonna do another spoiler warning at that point.
Okay.
So, mechanics wise, there's stuff to talk about. Like, this is kind of like your standard JRPG, left versus right battle system. It's your turn. Speed takes a turn order and everything, that kind of stuff. You use items to heal. There's outside of battle. You run on a map. It's pretty close to other JRPGs in the sort of overworld kind of style, but the battle system is very different.
I will love the battle system. Specifically, I like that even though it is, everybody gets one turn per turn.
Yeah, essentially.
Speed helps, is because you want to go first before the opponent. But also the whole braking system kind of helps. And the brake system
that's what makes it good for me, is the braking system.
I'm going to say that's something that's unique to Octopath. The closest thing I can relate to it is... if anybody played Final Fantasy Dissidia, they had a system where you had to shatter your opponent's bravery to power up your attacks, so you could do HP damage. So you hit their bravery stat, but you also hit their hit point stat. It's not quite the same here. They have in this game, they kind of have armor points where every time you hit them with an attack they're weak to, it gets rid of all those armor points. And when they get to 0 armor points, they get stunned for 2 turns. The one you're on and the next turn. Along with opening up for damage from anything.
The rest of the current turn and then 1 turn, yes.
Yeah. And you can break multiples at once. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's the core mechanic, honestly, of this system. There's a lot of cool mechanics around Octopath. It's great. I love that they have job systems and stuff. But I think that defense breaking is the core mechanic.
Yeah, so one of the things is that they start playing with later on, again, pseudo spoilery territory, but there's a lot of bosses that shift weaknesses and they get better armor after every time you break them. So sometimes
really?
Yes, you don't. Sometimes it's almost like, do I want to break him? Because can I handle not breaking him? So what breaking does essentially gives you gives you a break in quotations of the enemy attacking, so you can focus down like breaking like a dangerous monster and just sort of take the hits from the lower monsters in a group or that kind of thing. It's really strategic in the fact of when do I want to break and who do I want to break with, because once they're broken, they don't have any resistance. If you're not hitting them with a weakness when they have armor, you're doing reduced damage. So
yeah,
once they're broken, they're taking full damage from everything also. So that's good to know too.
I've seen several different strategies revolving breaking things, and I think I love it. One is I've seen the biggest one I see is obviously people getting everybody ready to do as much burst damage as they physically can in the break window.
It's kind of how I did it. Kind of.
The other one I saw is people only using breaks as a pause button on the fight. Like they would be dumping damage on them, even with like not super effective attacks. But then when the boss did something dangerous, they would just quick break the boss and then go back to dealing damage.
Right. I think it's important to notice, to at least mention the BP system that kind of plays into this. So BP is battle point. And so every turn that you don't use a battle point, you gain a battle point. So at the beginning of the turn, you gain a battle point. And a battle point is you can augment attacks. And if it's just a physical attack, you basically attack twice. So one of the things you can do is if like something has 4 armor, and you can only go up to max of 4 battle points used at once, although you can hold 6.
Right.
The thing is weak to daggers. You have 4 points of daggers, so 4 battle points, so you can bump it up to 4 and hit them 4 times with a dagger. Assuming you don't miss any of those attacks, you're going to break them. So this also plays into magic and abilities and that kind of stuff. So every character, every job has their own attacks and abilities and that kind of stuff. And if it doesn't do the only thing that does multiple strikes based on BP is your basic attack. All the abilities, they just get stronger with each battle point spent. This is especially useful for stuff like mages and that kind of thing because you bump up the damage really hard with those battle points. The BPs. Their strategies to gain more BPs per turn, their strategies to donate BP and that kind of stuff. So that's another layer of it, of just like over dumping BP into breaking. I don't do that personally. I kind of play it vanilla with the BP, which a lot of people say is a bad way to do it, but whatever, it's the way I like doing it.
As long as the enemies die and you don't die, you're good.
Right.
One thing I wanted to point out involving the BP system, in previous games, I'm going to compare this to Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 now. Speed and classes and some arcane mixture of maths determined if you did multiple attacks per turn. Like, if you've ever played Final Fantasy 1, occasionally your fighter would just swing and it'd be like 8 hits, and you're like, well, why did it pick 8 hits? I don't know.
That seems
this
odd.
This is more of a controlled way to do it, where you can control how many hits you want per turn, because on occasion you don't want to push too hard because maybe that'll put a boss into berserker mode because you pushed it past that 30% hit point threshold or something like that. So now you can kind of control yourself a little bit more. And I think that's putting more agency in the player's hands versus just, oh, well, your fighter hits 8 times. Why? Because the math says it hits 8 times now?
Yeah. Basically. The RNG. This is, as far as like the overworld stuff, there is a fast travel if you've been to a town before. Personally, I didn't like using the fast travel. I only used it towards the end to sort of hurry up and get the chapter 4s done.
I'm going to say, honestly, using fast travel is not great anyway, because you do need to get levels and do a little bit of grinding in this game.
That's why I wanted to basically, with just traveling where you want to go, that essentially that's your grind. You don't have to sit there and cycle in an area to grind levels like a lot of other JRPGs. Except for, so I played a little bit after beating everyone's chapter 4s, which I literally beat my 4th chapter 4 this morning.
Hey.
But I started playing with my off group, which is, so I guess I'll say my main group, which was Primrose, which is who I started with, Albrecht, Hanet, and Cyrus. And I played with those four the majority of my experience. I then have an off group, which is like the ones that are like, okay, I'm going to finish all these chapter 4s, and then I'm going to do the other chapter 4s, which was Tressa, Ophelia, Alphine, and Therian. And those four are severely underleveled. Severely. Yep. So I actually have to grind now, and that's been kind of a bummer. That's why I'm going to be putting this game down for at least a week.
I do want to point out, I like that grinding, or at least not grinding to get advanced, but grinding to do catch up is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of games, they'll punish you for bringing somebody too weak. They'll be like, oh, well, in order to level them up, you have to fight something their level. You can't just go somewhere else. In this game, no, you can absolutely have like 3 level 60s in your party and then 1 level 5 and go kill something level 60, and that 5 will jump like 20 levels. Catching up is pretty easy. So it's not, as painful as it could be.
Well, I'm doing it in a painful way because I'm leveling a whole off party at once. So.
Oh, God, yeah. Always bring at least one good person. That way you can go fight higher level stuff.
Well, I mean, Tressa's good. She's 17. Everyone else is 11. So.
But,
everyone else is 63.
Yeah, jeez. Continuing with mechanics, though, I think a lot of stuff is a lot more controlled. Like, it is some ideas from other games, but with more control and more effort on your part.
I do want to mention olives is a terrible way to revive people.
What is?
Olives. Olives is the item that revives people.
That's right.
I don't get that. I
haven't had anybody die yet, so.
Oh.
By the way, I started with. I'm going to be terrible. I keep forgetting people's names. Hanet. I started with Hanet. Hanet. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I like her a lot. So from what I found is everybody has their like favorite characters. I like Hanet a lot.
I'll get into that with the personalities because
yeah. There is one side to the mechanics I think that kind of fell through a little bit.
Okay.
Is they, and this is part of something that they advertised quite a bit. They'd said like, oh well, this whole path system, everything's going to have 2 ways of handling it: the rogue path and the good person path. I really didn't feel that as much.
I didn't see that anywhere of them saying that, but I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah, so the whole thing was advertised as like, oh well, there's a real words for it, but I'm going to go ahead and say noble in the rogue path. I know it's not called that, but it's basically it. Where one can reduce your reputation in town because it's considered a not nice way to do things, and the other one is just like level gated. So it really didn't feel like you're being punished. It just felt like more like the risky way.
Are you talking about the path actions?
Yeah. So to give an example,
there is pairs of them. That makes sense.
Yeah, right. So Albrecht and Hanet. Albrecht can challenge people to a fight, and he'll just get into a fight with them, and he can use items in all his actions. And you have to be a certain level to challenge certain people. And if you fail, you don't take any negative reputation in town. Meanwhile, Hanet can do the exact same thing, kind of, except she sicks up she sicks her pets on them, and you can use her pets and actions she's captured.
Yeah.
And well, it's not just Linda; it's all the pets you can use.
Well, I know,
but you can only use pet actions and items. You can't use other jobs or abilities during it.
Right.
You're also not level gated. You can challenge anybody you want with her, and if you fail, you take negative reputation in a town.
Yep.
Which is supposed to be like a punishment, but to fix your reputation in a town, you go bribe you pay the shop or the bartender to spread good word about you guys. In reality, you're just bribing them.
Yeah, and it costs 4,000. That's it. Flat 4,000, no matter how many times it happens.
Yeah, it's really cheap. And
4,000 is pretty steep in the early game, but yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's a decently cheap cost. And I don't think that was so much of a rogue action, so much as a risky action. The other comparison is Tressa the merchant with Therion the thief.
Buying
Tressa
items versus stealing.
Yeah, you can just buy any item you want, or you can go take the thief and just try to steal it. And if you fail, go bribe a shopkeeper and try it again.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's almost an impossible percentage. So,
Right.
Because I have both Tressa and Therion in my party for my off party that I'm doing. So I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, you can get so-and-so's shield for 3% chance to steal or 18,000 whatever currency.
Yeah.
I want to call
The problem is
Zenny. I was like, I'm just going to pay the 18,000 because that's easier.
the problem is those save skimming also exists. So it's just like I think that that the risky action should have had a lot more risk. The other one is
Cyrus versus Alfine.
Yeah. So Cyrus can like challenge people to find out information, and there's a percentage it'll work.
He basically Sherlock Holmes them. He investigates them.
Yeah.
And
there's a percentage it works or not. Or you can take Alfine, who does the exact same thing. It's just who you can get information off of his. Yeah, but it's also based off your level. You can't.
Yeah.
You'll just go up to somebody and be like, "No, you can't ask them for information. They're level 50 and you're level 20." But if you go with the other guy, you can go up and just try it anyway.
Yes. Yep.
Which again, it would be cool if it had an actual punishment to it, but 4,000 gold's not much. And you can try like 3 times before you have to pay 4,000 gold.
5.
And then
you have 5 attempts.
Oh, is it 5 before your reputation drops?
Yep.
Wow. And then the last one is bringing along teammates. Right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so Ophelia and Primrose, they can... Primrose will seduce a NPC to come join them in battle, whereas Ophelia will...
Just ask them to come with.
I don't know how to say other than seduce, because basically she's like, I'm going to help you on your way. It's not like a hey, come here, baby, like it is with Primrose the dancer. It's literally, I guess, I'm going to help you, follow me. It's like, you ever play Oddworld?
Yeah. Well, with her, I always thought it was like a, hey, you want to help me out?
That's what I'm comparing it to as Oddworld. It's like, hello, follow me. Okay. That's kind of what Ophelia does. Whereas Primrose is like, pray, come hither. It's like what she says. And she's and then if the person is seduced, they come and join you.
But that's the thing is, it's just guaranteed but level locked versus percentage chance for it to work.
Now, I will say that those two, the following ones, are the only ones that actually have an effect in battle. Everything else is overworld. There are certain things that will give you advantages in battles, like inquiring on an enemy and then you challenge them. Sometimes you'll see weaknesses if you inquire the enemy. So if you have to like challenge an NPC and you read up on him beforehand, it's like, this guy doesn't like lightning, and like that kind of works. But the Ophelia and Primrose abilities are the ones that actively like can be used in battle, because if someone's following you, their action during battle is, hey, this person joins you.
Yeah, you can sick them on the opponents.
Yeah. And they're the only ones where their path, action, and talent intersect, I think.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So, what makes up a character is their personality, and then their action outside of combat, and then 2 other things. I'm going to say personal talent, because it's the thing that you can do as a person. I'm going to use Hannah as an example. Hannah can tame beasts. She can identify them, tame them, trap them, and then send them out to do attacks.
Yes.
They're kind of like limited use summons. They're all right. It lets you cover weaknesses and attacks that you may not have. Or, in the case of those frogs, provide an insane heal that does way too much healing.
There's a sheep. There's a sheep that without boosting it does 1,000 healing.
Yeah, it's really good. But that's exclusive to her. But she's also a hunter, so she has abilities like rains of arrows and stuff like that, which is cool. But a mechanic that we hadn't talked about yet is you can change characters' classes. Well, not really change. Sorry, you can add additional characters' classes.
It's a job system very similar to Tactics,
which I'm actually very happy about, by the way.
Yeah, Final Fantasy
know,
Tactics.
If you don't know, Tactics is my favorite game of all time.
It's up there for me. I agree with you on that. It's my favorite Final Fantasy. I'll say that.
Yeah. So how it works is you had your job like you're a knight, but you can pick another job as your secondary job, and you get the actions of that job.
Right. So it's important to note that all 8 characters have their own job. You have Dancer, Warrior, Thief, all that kind of stuff. They are that job. You can add one of another job, which is another character. You're basically mixing the abilities of 2 different characters into one.
Yeah, but that's why I specified your natural talent versus your job. Mm-hmm. Because anybody could become a hunter, but they do not get Hannett's whole taming the beast thing.
No, they just get the hunter abilities, which is Thunderbird and arrows. So
right. So everybody has something like that that's exclusive to them. Mm-hmm. Example, Therion's, I believe, is he has certain steals that he can do in combat. But then he has a thief version of those steals too, right?
Yeah, I don't know his particularly well. I don't use his thief abilities a lot.
Yeah, I know. Ophelia. I'll give the example. Ophelia can. Her talent, her natural talent, is calling to people in the battle. Mm-hmm. And generally, they're kind of tied to your.
Right.
Your out of combat skill, not a direct tie, but like you said with Ophelia and.
Primrose, it's direct.
Primrose, it is a direct tie.
Yeah. And then Ophelia's other thing is basically white magic from Final Fantasy, or clerical magic, or divine magic, whatever. Healing. Mostly healing, and light. She's the only one who can do light damage.
So that's why you take a second class. So, like, example, maybe you don't want Ophelia in your party for reasons, but you still want a white mage who can white mage good.
Yes.
You can set anybody else as a white mage.
Yeah. Once you get that shrine, the thing is you have to find these job abilities on shrines.
Yes.
I never found the one for Tressa. I never found the merchant shrine.
I thought they were marked.
I don't know. I never found it. And I have almost the whole map explored, I think.
One thing I did want to point out, this is, I'm not going to call it a story spoiler because it's not story. You can kind of stumble across one relatively early on. There are other classes, too. I believe there's...
Super classes!
Yeah, I don't remember how many there are, but there
4.
are secret classes.
There's 4.
But they are locked behind hard fights.
Oh, yeah, no, I have attempted the Arc Magus, which is the spellcasting one. I have attempted it at least 6 different times. Both... one time I got very close to completing it. It was a 27-minute fight.
Yep.
And I still died.
I gotta see the Starseer. Woo!
I don't know what the Starseer does.
Astrologian style stuff. So buffs and calling stars out of the sky to fall on enemies.
It's the there's kind of like it makes sense. There's sort of like 4 different archetypes, right? There's the buff / healer archetype, there's the warrior archetype, there's the mage archetype, and then there's the sort of utilitarian.
Yeah, green mage.
Utilitarian kind of style. I think that's what those 4 are. Because, I mean, one is easy to tell. The Warmonger is the warrior. And the Archmagus is definitely the mage. I didn't know about the Starseer and what the other one is. Those are the 2 that were confusing me because until you use them, I don't think you're going to know. I didn't get any of these. I wanted to, but that's a goal for me to do with my high-level party. I think I should do to help out my lower-level party, to help them.
Right. You also have passives on every character, which is kind of like passive skills in Final Fantasy Tactics, where
Right. So as you unlock abilities with job points, just like Tactics, you basically you get job points for every battle. You unlock abilities to do for your job. When you get a second job, you're also balancing your spending on two different jobs. Sometimes in my case, I used upwards of 3 to 4 jobs on certain people just to get those passives. But as you unlock more, you get more passives.
yep. Which is kind of cool that you can
Yeah, you can mix and
really
match
customize
passives.
things.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, so I ended up doing, and I'm going to be doing with the second party to sort of mirror it, because this is how I played, is I liked having a sort of like a designated healer that was sort of like that was able to do some off like breaking and damage, but mostly she was a healer, and that was Primrose for me. So Primrose was in the end spec'd as the healer, as a cleric. So he was a dancer cleric.
Okay.
So she was buffs and healing mostly. Then I had Albrecht, who was spec'd as a hunter, because hunter boosts your attack and critical. So it was sort of like min-maxing his physical damage.
Okay.
Then I had Hanette, who was the opposite. She was the hunter maxed as a warrior. So she had more increased attack on top of that. So they were two heavy physical damagers. And then I had Cyrus, who by himself is the best mage. And then I gave him a dancer. So literally everything was each other, except for Primrose was basically Ophelia. And Cyrus was basically Primrose. Like the only outside class I had was the white mage, or the cleric. And Cyrus, he had a lot of different things on him. He had everything from dancer to... So he was a dancer in the end. But Cyrus had a lot of abilities from like 3 different classes, I think. Stuff like that. I know that if I am doing a physical damager, this is what I want to mention the passives for. There's the passives for the hunter are insane, because you have 2 different things that allow you to do extra attacks.
Yep.
So there's one that gives you a 50% chance to perform another attack on top of any basic attack. This includes if you BP boost it. So if you do a 4, there's a 50% chance to do a 5th. So it's really really awesome. Then there's one that's a 25% chance that you basically get an extra turn at the end of the turn.
Oh, one thing I did want to point out. Sorry, this is just a big positive for me because I get very happy whenever I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Your character actually changes based on what they are. So everybody has a
in battle
default outfit.
Yes.
Well, I think it reflects on their sprites outside of battle too.
No, it does not. Absolutely does not.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah, that's a big complaint.
But anyways, whenever you change their subclass, I'm going to call it subclass. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you change their subclass, that changes their it enhances their current outfit. So it's not like, Tactics where your character's hair length and color changes dramatically whenever you shift classes. It'll change the colors a little bit. Like anybody who becomes a dancer gets a little bit more flowy and some nicer colors and stuff like that.
Oh, dude, no, Cyrus. Cyrus gets like a vest, like one of those like guy stripper vests that go. Like,
oh yeah, you absolutely see midriffs on dancers. It makes me happy.
Oh dude, he goes all out ballerina, like the male like cut ballerina, which is funny. I'll get to his personality part later. It fits.
One thing I wanted to point out to you, one combo I see a lot is warriors with merchants.
I wanted them. That's one of the things. I wanted the merchant subclass. I wanted it because that's the only class that can do wind damage, and it was the one damage I was missing. That's what I would have had Hanette using.
Okay.
But yeah, I couldn't find it.
But I think it's neat that they have all these smaller mechanics built in that don't overall like wholly change the game, but they definitely make it feel unique.
They make you feel like you're building your own team. There's a lot of team comps out there, and a lot of people are like, oh no, you have to use Alfine with this and this and this. And I'm like, I don't use Alfine. I don't even know how to use them that well. I mean, I know
I
about
can't
his
get
concoct ability, but
I can't get his concoct to work. Even when I use like the one that's like labeled as potent, which is supposed to do a lot of damage, I'll use it and it does like 30 to each character. And I'm like, oh, never mind. I'll just not use this ever.
yeah, you need later game materials basically to do more.
Yeah, like certain characters you just might like better, not only because of their looks or maybe you like their special ability. Like I use Hanet because, well, first off, she's my main character because I picked her first.
Yeah,
but I love that the capture mechanic because I can cover all my things. And it's, I don't want to say a Pokemon like mini side quest thing because it's not really, but the ability of being like every time I encounter a new monster, my first thought is I should capture this to see what its skill is.
you can capture sub bosses. Some of them.
Really?
Yes, there's these extra dungeons in the world that help you get better items and that kind of stuff. They're just side quests. There's nothing story-wise that would ever put you in one of these dungeons.
Yeah.
And there's one with a moth there. Now, granted, I had to boost it all the way, and it had to be in the red and broken. So, like, basically, you're weakening the opponent as much as you can to get a better chance to capture him. Still only had a 3% chance to capture it, but my goodness, did I try. This giant moth. And it would have been really good because it poisons the whole enemy team when I read it, I think. Because that's what it did as an attack against me. That's my guess. But
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat. Something to note about her. She also has an infinite use pet. It's the snow leopard that she starts off with.
Linda.
And it's kind of there. It's nice because it has spear and sword attacks. Downside about her is if you boost it, it doesn't do multiple attacks.
It just does more powerful. And also, you don't get to control it. It sort of has this pseudo logic that's behind it on what it uses.
I notice it always tries to use spear first, and if that doesn't super effective, it tries for the AoE sword attack next.
If you've discovered a weakness, it'll default to that.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things of the scholar, which is the mage. The scholar can identify weaknesses as an action. So if you identify weaknesses and Linda comes in and she's like, okay, this thing has a spear, I'm going to hit it with a spear. Which
you can also do like I do and just aim randomly until you hit a weakness.
I do that sometimes. I've started to learn different monster types have different things, specifically.
Luckily, once you've discovered a weakness on a monster, it's locked forever. Like, there's other variants of that monster generally, but like Wolf A is always going to have spear weakness.
And and once you've discovered it, you've discovered it. Period. For that monster.
Right.
You never have to discover it again. Even my second party that has never seen some of these monsters they're coming across, I know all their weaknesses because I've battled them so many times in the first party. So there's stuff like that. Granted, each boss is going to have their own unique stuff, so you're going to have to identify them again. But
right. And to start off with, you only like the identify spell will only like identify one weakness at a time. You can obviously, I think you can boost to discover more though. Right?
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. One extra per boost. So you can discover up to 5 at the most. Which, I mean, that's pretty excessive.
Yeah.
I would say. I think the most I ever did was 3 at once. So, a lot of the mechanics out of the way. That took a long time.
I mean, it's an RPG. There's always complicated mechanics.
Well, I think part of it was we both kind of liked it too. So that was a good positive. One thing, I don't want to run out of time here, so we're probably going to go over an hour. But
can I do a one line mention of something real fast?
Sure.
The music is excellent. Like if you do not plan on playing this game, just YouTube a playlist of the music. It's really good.
It's literally what I was going to go into is like one thing I don't want to not mention is A, the music, and B, the art style. The art style is really what grabbed me when they first showed off this game. It's got this beautiful dynamic lighting in a lot of areas. I mean, it's just like really good. It's still that sort of Final Fantasy Tactics aesthetic, like a diorama style with 2D cutouts. But it's done really well. You traverse the world in 3D. They kind of hide things in that style. Like, gosh, I'll tell you what, there's a dungeon that I was playing a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Could not figure out how to get to this chest. I just started randomly running into walls, and I eventually ran through one and went down a path and finally got the chest. I probably spent a good 2 hours of gameplay in that cave looking for that chest.
One thing I like is, I've said it again, Tactics' favorite game, whatever. I generally don't like pixel games that much. I used to a lot. The issue is that a lot of things started picking up pixel games, and it slowly started to become a sign of low quality. Like, oh, well, we made it pixel not for a stylistic choice, but because it's cheaper to produce.
Well, not just that, they're all flat. Even Tactics.
But also,
the color palette is just like, here's a color, here's another color. It was all flat and not a lot of shading. There's literally a shadow.
Also, it's if you put too much detail on a pixel, like a lot of games do, if you use pixels and then use too much detail for it, everything gets lost. You will just not see things because there's too much happening on the screen at once. And
right. Well, these aren't
this
pixels
game was very
as
good
much
about
as they're
that.
sprites. They're sprites. So you're seeing, like a fully rendered 2D, but still fully rendered object there. You're not seeing pixelated.
A sprite that's made of pixels.
It's pixel. I would
mechanically
argue,
it is not pixels. Art style is a pixel. When I can count the amount of squares that make up someone's eyes, it's pixel art. You know what I mean?
No, it's not blocky. That's where I would draw the line of pixel.
What?
It doesn't look blocky to me. It actually looks stylized.
I would highly advise in checking out a pair of glasses.
Because I have a very strong prescription.
Because I can tell you Albrecht's eyes are 3 squares of black on the left, 2 squares of white on the right-hand side, and then 1 square of a little bit darker white to the top right-hand side.
Sure. I mean, yeah, but it's still very clear, whereas I don't really equate that to pixel art style. You know what I mean? I don't.
Okay.
They're sprites, which is like the next step up, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, so they're more high-end SNES era sprites.
Yeah.
Bigger than that. But, yeah. I see where you're trying to get with that, but I would still call it pixel. Because they still follow the grid,
Yeah, and one of the thing is, like, the lighting, they actually, they have, like, dynamic lighting and that kind of stuff. You're not looking at, here's a shadow and that's the end of it. You're actually going to see multiple shadows from different light sources. You're going to see, like, it looks a lot better. Just like, there's, like, fog effects that actually obscure things. There's depth, and there's all sorts of visual effects that really make this game shine. And like you said, the music is just fantastic. And
the spells are not pixelated. The spell effects and attack effects are not pixelated.
No, they are fully whatever art stylized, however you want to say it.
Another thing I was going to point out was, like, even the snow areas. Oh man, any place that has snow looks amazing because the snow doesn't follow the kind of storybook aesthetic it has. It follows very snow sparkly look to it, and it actually has snowfall that looks realistic versus just like, oh, we put a flat layer over the screen. You have to
yeah,
here's snow now.
Here's a layer of opaque fog. Here you go. It's a lot better than that. A little story about the music. I first booted this game up. I was at a trip to my parents' house. I first booted it up on my parents' TV. We were about ready to start a D&D party, but we had some time beforehand. Then I got pulled off to help with other things, so it just sort of sat on the title screen for a good 2 hours. And it was just sort of playing in the background while I was doing stuff to help out. I was like, this is really good music, and I've been listening to it for like 2 hours, and I'm not bored of it. Like, just the title theme. And then I also remember just sort of laying in bed playing one night, and we were in Hanet's village. I can't remember the name of it, but the starting village for Hanet. and that thing, like, not in a bad way, in a good way, it actually just put me to sleep. I was like, okay, I need to put the game down because I'm sleepy now. Like, it was just so relaxing and so peaceful. It was just like there's the music is just awesome throughout the whole game. Anytime you're in the snowland, there's like there's a couple different snow areas, and they all sort of have this sort of easygoing theme. And it's always like, wow, this feels like so peaceful. And then you get into the battles, and the battle theme. I'm not a huge fan of the generic battle theme. There's boss themes that are really good, but like the generic one is okay. It's serviceable, but for the most part, like all the music has been really great.
Something I wanted to point out about the music in the winter areas specifically.
Mm-hmm.
They did winter music without making it sound Christmassy.
Yes, they did.
It's such a like rarity thing about that. Like 90% of the time when you have Christmas music, it's like, oh well, we gotta have sleigh bells and it's gotta be Christmas. No, they actually did it really decently. Like it just feels it kind of reminds me of like a Lonely Glacier style of music where it's just like very cold, very quiet and still.
Mm-hmm.
Is how the music reminds me of.
Yes,
which is nice.
And it actually kind of does make you feel cold. The music, it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's pulling on some things. But then again, I live in an area that can get pretty cold, so maybe that's just me nostalging. But I was going to say, you mentioned like, oh, it sounds Christmassy. It's like one of my favorite games musically is Banjo-Kazooie. It's a game about music, essentially. You collect music notes and that kind of stuff. Even their Ice World theme is super Christmassy.
Yep.
Super Christmassy. And I still love it, but like that is not something I would have thought to mention. Yeah, it's not Christmassy. Yeah, it's such a good, unique art style and that kind of stuff. Just artistically, with visuals and music. I mean, as a game, this is probably one of the most impressive aesthetics I've seen in a long time. I'm not a big fan of sprite work or pixelation, like you're saying. Never been a big fan of that. But then again, like this is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad they did a lot to it. Another stylistic choice is the menu. They did a very beautiful looking menu without making it unwieldy and terrible. Because I say that because so many times you'll get like a menu where it's like, oh, this looks great. How do I navigate this pile of art?
Right.
But this one, they made a nice looking menu, and it's super easy to navigate through. It's just a simple, like, realistically, it's just a bunch of menu items on the left-hand side, and then when you click on it, it pops it out. Which sounds basic, but when you see it, it actually looks nice, because they didn't try to...
It's clean.
Go all over the place, yeah.
It's clean, which helps.
Also, I love that the menu has the map on it by default. Like, as long as you don't click into, like, equipment or something, you can just see the map at all times, anytime you open up the menu. And that's kind of cool. So if you want to get a quick reference where you are without going to the full map screen and, zooming around and stuff and trying to filter things, you can just pop the map and be like, oh, okay, we're here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to get into the characters then. We're getting upwards in time. I don't think we're going to do... I mean, do you still want to do the sort of get to know us? Maybe just do a quick question at the end?
Sure. So
we'll just make this a longer episode, I think, then.
Yeah, and we don't have to go too in-depth with the characters. We can be like, just quick impressions and why you like them or dislike them.
Okay. So how about we do this? We'll just do back and forth. We'll just, like, I'll bring up one. You bring up one. I'll start it out, and I'll start with Primrose, which is...
Yeah.
I will say Primrose is tied, if not 2 ways, 3 ways for a favorite. Like, I'll say this up front. there's not a story I didn't enjoy yet. But I can't really fully judge any of them but 4 of them, because I only finished 4 of them. And Primrose is the first one I finished, and oh my goodness, a lot of people love Primrose, as far as like even the bashers of the story, because Primrose,
I've heard from many people that she has the most complex and the most well done story.
If you want to boil it down, it's a revenge story, and it's very clear from the first chapter. There's an artist who did this really just like really good piece, digital art of Primrose, of her standing in the sand when you exit. So the end of chapter 1 is you confronting basically her pimp, I would call him. Essentially, he's a guy that runs. She's not a whore, but she's a dancer who has done more than dance. You get that impression, at least.
Yeah. She's the character who's been used all her life, and she's tired of being used.
Not exactly, no. It's more sinister than that.
Okay, well, that's the impression I got from it.
She is cold. And cold as in she is bent on one thing, and that is taking down the 3 guys that took down her father. This is, chapter 1 stuff that we're talking about here. She is after the 3 guys that killed her dad. She comes out, like I said, there's this piece where you come out of the end of chapter 1, you're confronting basically her master, or whatever they call him, master. Basically the guy who sort of runs the dancing girls for this tavern. She has submitted herself as this sort of like cold but distant, really great dancer, really seductive. She's the best one there. If you've ever seen, what is it, Sucker Punch, the movie?
Okay.
Reminds me of Baby Doll. Just sort of like distant emotionally, but everyone just loves her. Sort of like really, I don't know, really seductive dance, but she has so much going on behind the scenes that she's good at hiding. There's this, like I said, there's a really good piece of her. There's a point in her first chapter where she flips a switch, right? She's like, okay, now is the time that I'm done being this dancing girl for this fool, right? And that's the sort of like confrontation for the final boss. That I liked her before that point. That flip switches, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, because she did all this on purpose. She submitted herself to a life to sort of find these people. She's like, she basically is willing to do whatever to get her goal done. And that whatever is stuff that I would never do in my life, ever. Like, she goes down some dark holes. But I like her a lot because a lot of people, she's been getting railed, especially in Germany. She got sort of censored on the cover. I don't know if you saw that. For
Germany's,
well, for sexism, right? Oh, she's a dancing girl or whatever. And she's probably the strongest female protagonist I've seen in anything ever. She is a person who uses her sexuality as a weapon, essentially, and is okay with that, and is a powerful woman who knows what she wants and knows what she likes and all this kind of stuff. Like, there's nothing weak about her. Again, I will not get into spoilers, but they play around with this idea a lot. She is still a person, I'll say that, right? She is far more complex than what you see in chapter 1, which is pretty complex. I like her a lot. Now, her as a fighter and that kind of stuff, the dancer abilities, they're really good at boosting other people. It's also the only class that does dark damage. So that's a thing to keep in consideration. And she also is hilarious for Bewildering Dance, or Bewildering Grace, which is... Mm-hmm. Have you done Bewildering Grace?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So for each boost, it's one of the few abilities that actually get multiple instances per boost. But for each boost, there is a random effect that occurs. It can be awesome. It can heal you for 400, or it can wind damage across everybody for, I don't know, it's not a whole lot. But it has this awesome effect of it can multiply up to 100 times your JP or XP. I've only ever got 10. 10's the most I got. Or 5. Maybe it was 5. But it's really good if you're trying to farm easy stuff. You're like, okay, I can basically do 100 battles, but it's rare to happen. The problem is you can also poison your whole team, and if you're really unlucky, there's one that says you barely survive the attack. It brings everyone on your party to 1 HP. That is rough. That is a rough deal, especially if you also poisoned yourself, because that means anyone who takes an action and didn't heal themselves enough is going to be gone. But basically, that's how I really like. I really like Primrose a lot. Like, she's a really cool character.
I haven't spent much time with her, but Arctic, if y'all remember, from a while ago, he likes
on
her
Hunter's
the
Hub.
most.
That is, yeah.
Roommate for those who haven't paid attention to the Hunter's Hub. But yeah, he thinks that she has probably the best storyline as well. It's a very common opinion so far.
Again, she's tied for me.
Yeah. My starting carrier, Hannett. I like her a lot. She's the very serious type of character where she didn't really have her own personal goal in life. She just was content to. She's a hunter guardian type of thing. You know, the type that they have they guard a village, they maintain the forest around them, they make sure everything stays on the up and up and all even, and everything's good. And then the storyline with her starts off with you going to go take down a beast that showed up that you don't know why it came to your town, but it came to your forest, but it decided to come to your forest and start destroying lots of things and killing lots of caravans and innocent creatures. So you, being the hunters, goes out to deal with it, and you do. And then you do have a master, but you start off at the point where you don't really need him anymore. You know, you're already trained, you're good. You're not like some newbie hunter who's doing her thing.
Right.
And meanwhile, your master's the bumbling old fool type of character, which I kind of like that. I always like that the master's kind of, not the most, not the most stable type of person, but their apprentice is very stable, very controlled. And then your master sets on a special mission he was going to go do, and he just stays gone.
Yep.
And you're kind of content. You're just like, well, I'll keep riding him. Eventually he'll come back, whatever. And then somebody comes back and is like, hey, yeah, listen, you're dead. Your master, you should go check on him. And so that starts your journey. I don't want to spoil hers because I really like hers quite a bit. But I love her as a character because she carries herself so seriously, because she's very in tune with nature without being in your face about it,
Yeah.
It's not like I'm a druid and I must protect the wilds and for the forest and da-da-da-da-da. She's just like, no, it's my job. We got to make sure people are safe. I also love that she uses a made-up version of Old English.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the
she
way
doesn't
she speaks. People panned her for this.
Yeah, I don't get why people hate this. But she doesn't do the thine and thou and all that stuff. But she does. Yeah, just a little bit. But she has her own. Okay, I guess she does thou. But this is based in reality, where it used to have a lot of words used to have like common enders on it. Like giving a quote, a couple of her quotes actually. "Comin' if thou darin, lettin' us beginnin." Adding just that "n" at the end of a lot of things, letting the hunt beginnin. It's very kind of old school speak, which I guess people think it sounds cheesy and made up, but I think it fits because she's out in the forest alone. She's not part of the modern world. She's just
it makes her sound
her
exotic.
and her villager. Yeah, her and her village are off doing their own thing. It's not like the next character I was actually going to talk about, Ophelia, where, she's part of a big city that's connected to big cities, so there's a lot of talk going around. No, her village is pretty much her whole world.
Okay.
That was it.
I like her a lot. She's also far more complex than she seems. Whereas Primrose, she starts on a high note and just sort of, to me, Primrose sort of keeps that high note, right? I feel that it's not, and I don't think it's any worse. I'm not saying that Hanet doesn't start, that isn't good. Chapter 1 versus Chapter 1. I like Hanet's Chapter 1.
It's very mild, though.
It's very mild. So she ramps up. So I have finished Hanet's Chapter 4. I liked her more and more each chapter. And you get to learn more about her. You kind of know who Primrose is after Chapter 1. And you just see the events play out and how does this character play. Versus you learn more about Hanet. And there's a reason for that too. But again, it might be a little bit of spoiler. So So my second one is going to be Cyrus. Cyrus the mage, the scholar. I like Cyrus a lot. And mostly because personally, I kind of identify with Cyrus. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying I'm a good-looking dude and everybody likes me, but I identify with
magic.
What?
I said you can't even cast magic.
I know I can't, but a lot of nerdy guys, regardless of how personable they are, they kind of have a problem recognizing how much other people like them. And that's sort of like what Cyrus is, and that's clear from Chapter 1. Cyrus gets in trouble because a student likes him, and he has no clue. He's just like, oh, she's a really good student, and she wants to spend time so she can learn more, and that kind of stuff. But it's made very clear throughout the story that he's a very good-looking dude and doesn't know it. He's like extremely attractive, which is why I love him in the dancer outfit, because the dancer outfit, he's basically kind of like a Chippendale. Like he's just straight up like just here is my manliness.
I like that his path action also like kind of reflects that a little bit versus one of the people I also want to talk about. I want to talk about Alphen because he's the one I went with for that side. Scrutinize is more of like walking up to somebody and be like, where is the like the Batman voice, where is the trinket, where is it, tell me about this town,
where's the hidden item.
Like he doesn't realize he's being like really in your face about it, but he's just like, hey, I need to know this.
He's very
back off, dude.
He's not a very good people person, but he's like one of those people. There's two different kinds of people who aren't good people persons. There's the very blunt and offensive person, and then there's the clueless guy. He's just the clueless guy, which makes him even more adorable to the girls. So like, again, not spoilers, but there is a cast of girls, and it's not like a harem thing. There's a cast of girls that like, I really wish you weren't so clueless. Something might have happened or something like that. Like, it's like, oh, okay, this is an ongoing problem. So yeah, that's been great. I like him a lot. Just he's the mage. He's really good at doing multiple attacks that hit multiple people. I won't go too far into it, but basically, if you need elemental damage, go with a scholar. He's really good. His Inquire ability, which is sort of like his natural thing, is you just at the beginning of this battle, you just learn something. You learn a weakness. Start of the battle.
It's pretty good.
I really miss that, not playing him on second party, because like I came across a monster that I hadn't really fought too much yet, and I was like, I have no idea what to start on this guy. It was the first time in a long time. They're like, okay, I can't just start with breaking him here. So, what's your next one?
So actually, I was going to do Ophelia, but I'll actually do Alphen next because he's the opposite of Cyrus.
Yeah,
Alphen is a great people person. He's he's an alchemist, or sorry, not alchemist. He's an apothecary.
Different. Apothecary, yes.
And he's a wonderful, nice guy. He's like the best friend of the whole town. He knows everybody in the town by first name. He knows all their problems. Like, he has remedies prepared for certain people. Like, one of the first people, he just stops by an old random person. He's like, hey, here's the thing for the thing you wanted. All right, have a good day. Bye.
Yeah.
And he's just a nice person. Even his chapter 1 storyline is the nicest thing. I can't wait to see more of him, because I want to know if he's going to, like, is he going to break? Is he going to have something terrible? What's going to happen with him? His whole thing is he wants to, what's the word I'm looking for? He wants to learn more. He wants to get better, learn more. He wants to...
Yes, he wants to have a life experience, kind of not unlike Tressa.
He's not like, I'm trying to gain power, but more like, I want to get better at what I do so I can help people better.
Yeah, he wants to help the world.
And, like, by comparison, like...
he's
I can't remember how Cyrus... I don't remember how Cyrus used his Inquire the first time.
Well, he's basically studying someone, and it's like, do I believe them? Or I need to get this information out of someone. Yeah.
Which I interpret as him staring at somebody while they watched him. That's why he's not quite aware of what he's doing.
He's reading people like Sherlock Holmes. That's basically what he's doing, is just reading people.
On the opposite, like, Alphen, the first time you have to use his Inquire, which I think is nice, they call it inquiring, versus... scrutinizing, inquiring. You go up to a little kid and is like, "Hey, listen, we really need to know this so we can help your friend out, man. Would you be able to help us out? I promise I won't tell on you."
Yeah.
And he's like really nice about it. And he's the, I'm gonna say, a super chemist from Tactics, but he's all about using items and kind of healing over time and doing more AoE healy type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a decent character. I like him a lot. I like his storyline so far. I can't wait to see where it goes. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is he's got a kind of Riku-like ability where you jam some items together. Luckily, it's not your normal items. It's items exclusive to him.
Yeah, you get a lot of them throughout your journey, too. I have a ton.
You just jam 2 items together and they do something. Generally, it's...
it kind of tells you.
Yeah, well, I mean... I'll give you an example. You pick a healing base that's like weak, medium, strong, and then like a small amount which will affect one person, or a large amount which will affect a lot of people. Or you can pick a poison version of it with the exact same parameters, and then you'll pick like damage, or you can pick like the thing that deals with silence. And if you pick the healing option, it'll de-silence your whole party. If you pick the offensive option, it'll damage and silence the entire enemy party. The problem being it scales weird, and I don't know how quite to use it. And once you've done a combination, it'll tell you what it does straight up. But if you haven't done that combination yet, it's marked as question marks.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of experimentation.
Yep.
But he's a neat character. I have a hard time liking his set because I started with Hannet, and then I went to Ophelia, and then I walked down and got him. And having him and Ophelia in the party makes it so I can't die because I have so many healers. Yeah, but at the same time, they're both doing the same job, so it's like I need to pick one to get rid of.
Yeah, in my off party, I have both Ophelia and Alpine. And then I subbed someone else into the Ophelia role also, so I have 3 healers in my party. I was like, I need to get rid of the sub. I was just thinking about I need to get rid of the sub.
I will say about this game, have a healer or like a lot of items. Or 2 healers. I mean, if you have 2 healers, you'll never die. But at least have a healer and know how to protect them.
Oh, I died a lot. With 1 healer.
Something I will let people know, and I didn't know this until my friend told me, unlike every other game, with the exception of a few rare ones, magic power does not affect how much you heal. Your magical defense affects the potency of your heals.
Okay.
So it stops you from making Cyrus and cross-classing him with Ophelia's class to make him the most powerful, offensive magic and healing magic in the game. You have to you have to gear appropriately. So your black mage doesn't inherently become a crazy awesome white mage, and vice versa.
No, but making him a dancer makes him an incredible black mage. Because the dancer subclass enhances your magical attack.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's just what I mean. Is like, I like that they made that happen. Because in a lot of RPGs, the resistance ability kind of becomes worthless. Like, you build your tank for defense, and then you build your mages and stuff. But a lot of RPGs let you just ignore your magic defense. And this one, they kind of like, no, you should probably have... you should probably use it.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Magic resistance is still needed in this game, whether you're boosting your healing or not.
Right.
Fights get tough.
Right.
I had to attempt. Like I said, I attempted the Magus fight, or whatever you call it, the Arc Magus, whatever the top level mage class is, the super class, so many times, and I just die because I don't have enough resistance. And that was at level 58 is when I tried it the last time, so I might be able to try it again. But you do need defenses in this one because they matter a lot.
One thing I noticed, I know this is back to gameplay for half a second, but each fight is different. It's not just buy the best armor, buy the most attacky weapon.
No,
go.
Yeah.
You actually need to gear appropriately, and you actually need to change your stuff around appropriately. I like that.
Yeah, and not every weapon is just optimal either, because, for instance, there's this is just an example of knives. So if you want Primrose to do better as a damage dealer or a mage sort of type, you actually have to pick and choose which dagger you're going to use, because some daggers, they don't have a good physical, but they enhance your magical attack, and vice versa. There's just like a lot of weapons that are like, I'm good at casting magic, but it's also this weapon type. I think every weapon has something like that. It's like, okay, so I'm going to optimize my magical damage or my physical damage through this one weapon type. So did you have more to add on?
No, I think I'm pretty good on Alphen.
Okay.
I was just saying he's the probably tied with maybe Tressa for the nicest character.
Yeah, he's
the
the
most
town
polite,
bro.
nice character.
He's the town. I like him. He's one of the three that I only got through chapter 1, but I like him so far. So I'll go with my final chapter 4. Just recap. The one you mentioned that was my chapter 4 was Hanet. So my final chapter 4 is Albrecht. His story is kind of the reason why I was like tied for 3 and Albrecht would have been the 4th. Isn't that the story's bad? It's that his story is about sort of refinding who he is, and that's also apparent from chapter 1. And so I don't think it suffers because of that as much as I still love the story. It's purposely confusing. It's purposely like, okay, so what does he need? Like, you purposely don't understand his goal because he doesn't understand his goal. And that's his whole. It's his whole character arc. Like I mentioned, he was a protector of a prince or a kingdom or whatever, and that kingdom fell. So he's just sort of trying to pick up the pieces of his life afterwards and trying to figure out why he uses his blade. He still uses his blade, but
yeah, it's very much, what do I do with my life? Because being a mercenary is not what I should do with my life.
Right. So he ends up sort of going on this adventure to sort of discover himself, which isn't that much different from some of the other characters, but I think it's done in a unique way. It's like relearning who you are, and I don't know. Like
in my mind, it was discovering a purpose versus like Alphen's discovering he wants to learn more so he can be a better healer and a better apothecary. Cyrus just wants to learn more because he's a nerd. Ulbrich wants to learn about himself.
Yeah, and there's a difference there. And one of the reasons, like a lot of people, Albrecht is super boring. I kind of relate to Albrecht in a very different way, and I'm going to get a little personal here. I've been going through a divorce the past couple months, and sort of relearning how to do things after being married 9 years. You know what I mean? It's kind of felt like that. Like, there's a lot of confusion at first, and then you kind of have to sort of pick up the pieces and just sort of go. And that's kind of the way Albrecht is. Things fell apart, and he's trying to pick them back up and figure out what to do from there.
Yeah.
So it's like, I kind of get this. I kind of get it. It's not the same. It's a little more obtuse of a relation, but I kind of get it. I like him a lot. He's really great at fighting things. Having a sword and a lance in battle is really useful for a lot of different fights. Pair him with a hunter, you can hit almost everything. Because that gives you the bow and the axe.
Yep.
I love him a lot for that. His one thing I didn't mention, I guess we should have, the final ability, which you probably haven't unlocked for everybody. The final ability, if you learn everything in a job, they all have like a sort of super attack or a super thing.
Yeah.
They all. I won't go into them. You can read them. They're not all of them are super interesting or whatever. But I will say that I will mention Albrecht specifically because I use it the most. His is a straight up sword attack that hits a single enemy. But I regularly hit max damage with that without boosts.
Yeah, it's a big.
Yeah,
there's a reason he's a warrior.
Yeah, it's a big hit. So physically, he's probably one of the most physically powerful characters. So, but his story, I like him a lot. I like his voice. I think as the voices go, him and Primrose are my favorites. So, what about yours? What's your next one?
I'm going to talk about Ophelia.
Okay.
She's another one who came from a more noble background and more like versus Ulfric came from he was a knight for a king. Ophelia came from us being a servant of the church.
Yes.
And as far as I know so far, don't say anything, not even like a or anything, because I want to learn this for myself.
I only did chapter 1 with her, so
it's for the first time in almost any video game I've played, the church isn't corrupt or terrible. It's shocking.
I appreciate that. Again, getting a little personal. I'm a very religious person. I appreciate that for freaking once. I'm tired of like every single time I play a video game, the church is corrupt. I'm like, they're not all corrupt. Can we just?
Because like when done well, tactics, it's done really well. When done badly, it is the most boring plot hook of, oh boy, the church is evil. Who could have seen that coming? From what I've found out, the more on the nose the game is about religion, the more badly they're going to handle that trope. I'm going to get stabbed for saying this. Final Fantasy X was a bad executor of this.
I don't even remember it. I remember it was corrupt, but I don't even remember it.
Yeah, the church is corrupt. The whole thing's a lie. It's a sham. But the fact that everything from the very beginning is super church. Oh, the big enemy is called sin. And the servant, the things about like somebody going on a pilgrimage, but all the pilgrimage sites are super serial and secret. And nobody ever wants to talk about the pilgrimage. It's too heavy-handed. It's done badly. So far for Ophelia, it's great. Like, the whole reason she takes on the journey isn't necessarily because she was super stoked to go on the journey. Her whole background, for those who may not ever play this game, she's part of the Order of the Flame, which is a nice church that's about the fires of creation, I guess, is the quickest way to say it. You're also an orphan. You're adopted by the Archbishop, so, daddy's the pastor. And things are going good. Everything's great. Your adopted sister, the bishop's actual daughter, is preparing to go on a fun pilgrimage. Not like a world-saving pilgrimage like but like a fun one where you take a flame to visit all the churches in the land, and you come back and you're a better person. And
it's literally like a ritual. And it's okay.
It's a normal one. It's not like we have to do this or the world's going to end. No, we do this.
It's important because it's a tradition, and they don't want to... It plays on the very, like... In a sort of positive way, it plays on we do this as this religion because it's been done 20 years, and it's treated as extremely important because they don't want to break the tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, though. It's not like we have to do this or the world will end. It's more like we do this because it's what we do. And
it's an intense personal desire.
I look at it from the other side, too, is if you go on this pilgrimage, you get to see and learn about the world more. Yeah. And also you're still spreading news of your religion. And, you're still just keeping people aware that, hey, the light's out there, cool things. We're good.
Yep.
But the reason you do it, you weren't even like trying to like, well, I want to go on this religion instead. No, you were happy to serve your highness forever and ever, and you were just happy. But like old parents do in games, the archbishop starts to get sick, and he's not doing so great. Like at first, it makes it out like, oh yeah, things are gonna be good, and as the time goes on, things aren't gonna be doing so good. And unfortunately, the only family the archbishop has is Hugh adopted daughter and his real adopted daughter. Mm-hmm. And without telling them, you kind of take it on yourself to go into the sacred cave that no one but the pilgrimage goer is supposed to go into, and you start the pilgrimage basically. And then you go talk to your sister and the dad and explain like, yeah, I broke tradition, but it's because I really love you both and I want her to be able to spend time with her dad while the dad's fading away.
Yeah.
It's a really nice selfless act. It's not like I love that it's not doing it for power. She's not doing it because she wanted to take the pilgrimage instead. She's doing it because she loves
her sister and her father.
Yeah. She's a good person. And so her path is like, because everybody sets on a quest to learn more, whatever. Hers is to just finish the pilgrimage. Like I haven't gone too far with her, but her quest is to do the thing she started. And I like that. It's a very noble reason to go on a quest instead of like the village burned down, so now I gotta go get revenge. It's nope, I gotta do a thing because I said I was gonna do a thing.
Now I do want to address one thing about Ophelia, and I would have picked her next if you didn't, because again, like religion stuff, that's stuff that I identify with personally. But one of the things that a lot of people pan her for isn't the religion stuff that I've heard so far, is the way she talks. Just like Harnett, Your Excellency, Your Excellency, Your Excellency. It struck me as very, we all know, not all, a lot of people know the very prim and proper church girl, right? Everyone just assumes she's crazy on the inside, but there are people who are legitimately, I'm extremely proper, I'm extremely reserved, that kind of thing. This girl was an orphan, and she has everything to owe to this person, right? That she feels as if as a father, but she feels she has to pay him the due respect at all times. You know what I mean? So she always calls him by his proper title because she's a proper girl. So like, it's very like, I mean, again, if you don't like that, that's fine, right? It's just like people were really like making fun of her. Even what's his name? Does funny videos.
Donkey did a video where he made fun of her saying that.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny, but at the same time, there's a reason why she does that, right? It's her personality.
Because she was an orphan who would have died. Like she
and she
almost
feels
didn't live.
And she only cracks that once and calls him father one time in the first chapter.
Isn't that when she's leaving?
Yes, when she's leaving. And it's like, oh my goodness. Like, the thing is, like, it's a very, very emotional thing. And it's a person who, it's like, I like her a lot because how deep she is by being, like, having such a front. You know what I mean? Like, she's always on. Like, that's kind of...
Well, I think that's part of it, as you said, such a front. I don't really think it's a front for her. Like,
no.
She sincerely believes she's not really worthy, that she really owes it that she got saved. Because, like you said, she owes everything.
Not a front in deception, such a front as in she always is on. She is always doing the prim and proper thing, right? That she can't. Oh, right. A front is in like, this is how I am and this is how I'm going to be at all times. She never lets that sort of emotion sort of break down that idea that we have to be proper, except for once where she calls him father. And that's significant. That makes it significant when she says it.
Yeah. And it's not like the church told her she has to do that.
No,
the daughter says it all the time in front of other people, but like, Dad.
Yeah, no, yeah,
stop.
It's her decision. It has nothing to do with the church. You're right.
Also, the dad is the nicest guy ever. He's not even like, well, I took her in because I had to. It's just like, no, I had to do it. She needed a home and a family, and even when she's like, the sisters are kind of poking and making fun of him, he's not like, you guys better be more respectful. He's just like, yeah, what do I do to deserve these kids?
Yeah,
he's just a very moderate guy.
So my final one is going to be Therion. I typically like the rogue type. Again, I like all the characters. I can't help it, right? Therion, he's sort of like a master thief kind of idea, even though you start at level 10 or whatever once you're done with the story, like everyone else. But anyways, that aside, he's a really good thief. He's sort of cocky and that kind of stuff. He finds himself sort of duped and in sort of like tricked to go steal these items for someone. This is the very much convoluted railroading DM story for me. Like, it's not that I don't like the story. I think it's fine. But this sort of the mentality of the setup of go get these items kind of thing. I've recognized that a lot in D&D. That happens a lot. His personality so far isn't very uncommon in sort of roguish type that he is. I've seen hints, and granted, he's another one I've only done the chapter 1, so he's my third one. I've only done chapter 1, but there's hints of more complexity there. But again, I've only seen chapter 1. Not really a big fan of the steal abilities. I don't feel like they do a lot. It is nice that he is a little versatile, and just because the dancer only has a dagger, he actually has a dagger and a sword, which makes sense because a lot of rogues in D&D use swords also. Sort of like there's the dagger for being sneaky and sword when I get caught kind of idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a sword is better than a dagger, hands down, face to face. So it's like he's very much a D&D rogue, which I like. And but to me, there's not enough there. I think his is going to be one of those builds as the story goes kind of thing.
I think he's a fun character. I think mostly because he's not as much as I love Balthier from Final Fantasy 12. I love him. You know, the main character. I'm the greatest thing ever. He's not that. He's a very kind of. He's well known for being an excellent rogue. He's not flaunting it in front of anybody like an idiot. He's just like he does his thing, and he does it because he likes the challenge of it.
Yeah, he's very cocky, very very confident in his abilities and that kind of thing. As far as like mentality when he's talking, he's like, to me, another reason why I like him, but I'm not like over the moon about him like some of the other characters, is the very anime cocky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The very, oh yeah, I can do anything sort of mentality, or I'm bored, or like that. I've seen this a lot in animes that I don't like, and that's kind of way.
Yeah, the yawn. Ugh, like I hate that.
Now that doesn't mean I hate him. I'm just not impressed yet. I like him, but I'm not gonna be cheering on the roof with Therion yet.
I agree with your comment, by the way, about the D&D storyline.
Mm-hmm.
It is very much a D&D storyline of like, all right, you guys are a bunch of people. You're in a town. Somebody hired you to go do a thing, and then so you go do it, and then you uncover something. You're like, oh, this is actually deeper than just getting hired to do a thing. Oh,
yeah,
it actually means something, and I like that.
Yep. And then final one, Tressa.
Tressa's adorable.
She is.
She's a fun little character, and she did it kind of. I think she's more about the boredom one too. She's that boredom adventure hook of like, she starts off, she's just working in her parents' shop. She's just a shopkeeper who just kind of exists, and life's all right. I mean, her parents are pretty successful, right? Isn't it? They're doing pretty good when her storyline starts off.
Yeah.
It's just that she doesn't want to be just a shopkeeper. She wants to be an actual like traveling merchant and see the world and what is the world about. And so she kind of takes her limited skill of selling from the shop and just kind of leaves one day. She just kind of fails.
She she gets inspired by a very well-to-do traveler that comes in who's also a merchant. She gets inspired by this, like, oh, look what he's done with his life, sort of thing. And I want to go have that adventure. And then you sort of learn her dad did the same thing back in the day. So,
and she does have that little bit of revenge because she got robbed, but she's like, okay, no.
yeah, there is a bit of a a spark to start this idea, and she has that journal that she got from the dude, the merchant dude. That's sort of like she's following. This is the one I got through chapter 2, and that's it so far. I like her. She's a little bit bubbly and that kind of stuff. A lot of people call her another anime trope because the unfettered bubbliness, I guess. I don't know. She seems interesting enough to me. Again, it's not one that I'm like super identified with or going to say is super awesome, but I still like it.
So I'll go a little bit past chapter 1 without naming any specific events because I don't want to spoil things. But she's a little, I'm not gonna say naive, but positive to a fault. Like she's really trying her best at all the times, but sometimes like she says a little too much and is very open, and that's not a great thing. Like sure, you're doing good and you're doing your best, but maybe tone it down a little bit. It's be careful who you say things in front of. And
aggressive optimism.
That. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about.
Like maybe this isn't related to her. This is just a generic trope because it happens in D&D a lot. Maybe don't talk about how the town mayor is a dick and needs to be overthrown. Like while there's guards about that they're getting paid by the dick who needs to get overthrown.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't spark a rebellion while the person you're rebelling against is in the same town square as you.
True.
That's that type of overly aggressive optimism.
Yeah. She's the only one that can use wind abilities, like I mentioned earlier.
She has a cool set though. Like you're like, okay, what would a merchant do in battle? Merchant do cool stuff in battle, actually.
Hire someone to come beat someone up. That's kind of funny. Yeah, I like that one. You can just pay currency, which I'm against because getting currency is kind of hard buying some of the more expensive weapons. But
that said, if you ever had the Final Fantasy 7 or 10 summon Yojimbo, you'll know that sometimes paying people can do a lot of good. But she's also one of the weird side jobs that messes with battle points, and she can move battle points around, which is really cool and does a lot of crazy stuff too.
It's her and Alpine, right? They're the two.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's really cool that they put that in there.
Yep. Well, I think we should wrap it up there.
Oh.
We're at like an hour and 40 almost.
One thing I did want to say, it's very short. I found the 4 extra jobs. Mm-hmm. So if you want, we can mention them real fast.
Yeah.
So the first one is Starseer. And they're very about buffs, just right? Buffing things. They buff everybody, and they also drop stars on people.
Okay.
And it looks like they have like a flare style attack. So fun times. Then you have War Master, which is the
warrior.
The warrior. All their abilities are attacks with different weapons. So you just need to do damage. You can do it. Then you have Rune Lord, which is it's the self buff thing. You actually end up enhancing your weapons with elemental damage, which I think is kind of cool.
Okay.
And then the last one is Sorcerer, which is,
the Sorcerer.
It's super mage. They do a lot of damage a lot of times to every foe.
Right.
So I like that they did cover all 4 of the things,
Well, they don't have a good healer in there.
I think it's because it's assumed that you're going to take it with a healer class. Or because it's a super unit, they didn't want to waste its abilities on something that everybody else can do,
True. It just means I won't be using one of the 4 in my main party. Because I need a healer. Because my only healer is literally the subclass I have. So
yeah. It's just kind of neat that they gave something extra. And from what I understand, they are all very post-game stuff.
Right. Yeah, I would probably use just real quick. I'd probably keep Primrose as dancer / cleric. I would probably make Albrecht warrior. Make him the rune lord where he buffs himself. I'd probably make Hanet the Starseer, not the Starseer. Yeah, the Starseer that. Is it the Starseer that buffs others?
Yeah.
No, I'd make her the Warmonger. I'd leave out the Starseer.
So, I did want to say something else.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a reference to our main show, Hunter's Hub.
Yeah.
There is a monster you can catch with Hanet. It's called the Mossy Meep, and it gives big heals, real big heals. And you can capture them, and they have 7 uses each.
Yeah.
They're moss wine. They're absolutely
looks like
just
a moose wine.
Moss wine.
Yeah, it does. They're just a pig-looking thing with basically a pachycephalosaur dome on their head.
And they have moss growing over the back, and they're really cool. And I just thought it was kind of neat that
I forgot
they had it in there.
Yep.
But so overall impression, I love the game.
Same here.
I'm willing to. I want to 100% it because I'm actually reading quest texts and paying attention to everything that I scrutinize off people, even if they don't give me.
Yeah, we didn't even go into the fact there's side quests and stuff. There's a lot to this game.
I mean, it's an RPG, but even if you scrutinize somebody and they don't give me a hidden gem, I'll read their text because it gives more about the world.
Yeah.
Go to Therion's area. You can scrutinize the dogs.
Yes, you can. I did.
I think it's silly, and it doesn't. Some of them obviously will reveal a hidden item or some crap like that, but some of them will be like, yeah, he really doesn't actually like his handler. And it's that has nothing to do with the storyline or anything. But it's nice that they added that.
So we'll wrap it up. We'll do our little get to know you thing. One quick question, I guess, right?
Sure.
So did you have a question in mind or what?
What was the last one we did last time? I don't want to double it up.
I don't remember.
Wasn't it your favorite RPG style or something? It was favorite game.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we asked our favorite game.
Yeah. Favorite games. I think it was a few. It was 3.
Okay.
It was top 3.
That's right. Okay, so we'll make a short one. Is there any type of games you do not like? That you just absolutely do not enjoy? That be it a genre or a gameplay style.
Or a theme or something.
Yeah.
I'd like to say space. But
that's fine.
No. I'll be one that I really just avoid because I just don't care for them. Is horror. I don't like horror. I don't like being scared.
Really?
Yeah, I just don't. Granted, I actually do watch a horror YouTube show, but he's more reviewing on horror things because horror is always interesting in some aspect, right? I'll occasionally dip into it.
Of course.
But horror games like Silent Hill, never played it. I play Resident Evil for the action, not for the scariness. That's why people look fondly on Resident Evil 1, and I've never played it and have no desire to. I like number 2 because it was a little more actiony. You had to fight gators and sharks and stuff.
And it's getting a remake!
Yeah, it is. So generally just horror. I just don't like that kind of thing.
Okay. For mine, and this might come as a shock because I love tactics games. I don't like
strategy
real-time tactics games. I'm going to give an example.
RTSs.
I know, I like RTSs.
It is.
I don't like the Tales of style of games.
Okay.
Where it's occupying a 3D space and you're giving action commands, but not really, or like sometimes you control only one party member and the others are kind of doing it. The only one I've liked is Final Fantasy 12, but I dislike the Tales of games as much as I adore and I love Hayao Miyazaki.
Right.
I didn't like that game he made.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what game it is now.
No idea.
It's for the PS4. But any games like that, another one that everybody loves and they keep yelling at me about because I should like it by all rights is Dragon Age Inquisition and those Dragon Age games, because you have a team and it's very RPG and you're ordering them around and there's fun stuff to do. I don't like that partially turn-based, partially not turn-based combat. It's just it doesn't stick with me well. I've just never enjoyed it. I always feel cheated when like an ally dies because it's like, well, I didn't have control of them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was weird. The only reason I really liked 12 is because it was extremely customizable, which is always a plus for me, and because you built the AI of how your teammates act.
So you're thinking like Dragon Age 1.
Yeah, Dragon Age 1 and like Ni no Kuni, that's the name.
Okay.
I didn't really like Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I actually like Dragon Age 2 where it's a little more action-y and yeah. I can't play Dragon Age 1.
It's just I don't know what genre you would call that, but I'm going to call it partially
pseudo
like real-time tactics.
Yeah, pseudo tactics. Yeah, Mass Effect is also known for doing that.
Or real-time turn-based, yeah. Mass Effect, I actually kind of like that one.
Well, you probably don't like it for the battle system, I'll tell you that.
I liked, at least the first one, I liked the battle system number 1.
Like it for the battle system. You can like the battle system, but it's not while you're playing it.
Yeah. But either way, it's just that style for some reason.
Yeah.
It never clicked with me. It always feels either too slow or things are happening too fast around you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But that is the game I like. So now you've learned more about us.
Yep. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Next month this month we're gonna be playing Gravity Rush. I'm gonna be playing on PS4. I understand it's on PC also. I think.
Maybe.
But along with that, we're bringing on a third co-host, which is Haru. If you listen to the Hunters Hub, he's our guest that keeps guesting. We're bringing him on officially as our third voice on SideQuest. And this was his suggestion to play, so we're going to be playing Gravity Rush. So pick it up. It's on sale today. It won't be when this comes out, so I hope you heard this through time and space. So... thank you guys for listening.
Sounds good. Have a good day. It's on the Vita and PS4, no PC.
Okay, so PS4, pick it up.
Yep.
This is Fortuan at Hunters Hub Pod, and you'll see a --Fortuan after that name on the Twitter thing. And we will see you guys on the next side quest. And Toaster, what will you be?
You'll be seeing me try to explore as many paths as I can before I have to switch over to playing Gravity Rush and play that one. Hopefully I'll be able to put more time into Gravity Rush. I think I should because it's more actiony and doesn't require nearly as much time.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm going to be playing Gravity Rush and then going back to Octopath. Because
that's probably a better solution.
I need a break. The grinding today was just like, I'm done. Like, I just switch back